You're listening to Parents You've Got This, the expert guide to parenthood. The complete guide to fertility, pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood. This podcast is proudly supported by Mistela, a natural origin skincare for babies and children, recommended by healthcare professionals. Mistela by Parents' Side since 1950.
You've tuned into another episode of the Expert Guide to Parenthood podcast. We are your hosts, Christy Hopwood,
Freya Owen.
And every week we bring you a different episode about a different part of the parenting journey. And this week we're going to talk all about how to cope with parenthood. And, it is something that is incredible, but often we don't think about, some of those big emotional challenges which face us all when we become parents. But we're very excited to have the CEO of Cope today, who's on to talk all about this.
Yeah, we are so lucky today to have Nicole Highet here. Now, Nicole founded Cope, which is just an amazing organisation doing really important work to support parents. And we are so grateful to her for sharing her time and expertise with us today. So thank you very much
for
being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk, as Christy said, about how it can be unexpected that we might face emotional challenges when we become a parent. Why is this?
Look, I think when we go into parenthood, it's the first time we've often done anything. There's nothing like it in our lives that we've ever done before. So we often think about what it's going to be like based on what we learn or think or see around us. And often the portrayals of parenthood can be very idealised, and that often creates people's expectations, what they think it's going to be like. And when that doesn't match their reality, they often feel like no one told me about this, and why am I failing when everyone else seems to be doing such a great job? So that's always been there, that we don't really know what we're going to stumble upon until we get there. But it's so different for every parent as well. Every journey is unique. Even from one child to another, your experience can be really, really different. So, it's very hard to plan. You don't know what's coming ahead of you, but also we often have expectations which don't meet our reality. And in some ways, unfortunately, I think social media can really escalate that and place extra pressures on parents. So they often feel like they're failing and not keeping up, which all contributes to the emotional challenges and strains that parents have to deal with.
Yeah. It's quite funny really that the most important thing that we ever do in our life we don't study for, but yet we need to feel like we should know what we're doing, which is such a silly thing. And it's the most important things, we put those pressures on us. And then with social media, that's on show for everyone to see how we're coping or not coping. It's just quite incredible really. So if you think about parenthood, there's so many big things that happen in those first few months of becoming a parent. You're learning how to breastfeed, you've got no sleep, you've got different changes with your partner and the way that you interact with them. How do you know if this is just an adjustment period of becoming a parent or when it's something a bit more?
Look, that's a really good question, because there is so many adjustments, and what's normal and when have I sort of crossed the line that I might need professional help. Generally, we would say once you get to the period where you're really finding it difficult to cope from day to day, if you're struggling to do things, if you're not getting enjoyment out of the things that you used to get enjoyment out of, if your quality of life is really impacted in the way that you feel every day and the way you look at yourself or look at the world around you, or if you're overridden with anxiety that's stopping you being able to function to your full capacity, that's when we say it's often time to reach out and get help. We do talk in this period of life about adjustment disorders, and that is that normal phase where we're learning to adjust, and there will be challenges, there will be stresses, and there will be impact. But when it gets to the point that it's really impacting on our ability to function, and we're debilitated by the condition or the situation, then it's more likely to be an indication of potentially a mental health problem. And the faster we identify those conditions, the faster we can get it treated and get back to full recovery, which is so important when there's so many competing demands, to be at your best and give yourself the best chance to recover.
Perinatal anxiety and depression isn't just for women, is it? It's for men too. What percentage of mums and dads suffer with mental health conditions, anxiety in the aftermath of having their baby?
So statistics generally show us that about 1 in 5 women will experience anxiety, and our latest research from national screening data is suggesting that it's at least that high, maybe higher. Rates of postnatal depression for mums is around 1 in 7, and statistics say around about 1 in 10 dads would suffer from anxiety and or depression. So these are very, very common statistics, and this is why we must do things like national routine screening to identify these conditions early, provide parents with evidence-based information to make sure they can identify symptoms in themselves and get help early, and also have access to excellent information about safe and effective treatments, which we provide through our national guidelines.
So you're the CEO of COPE. Can you tell us a little bit about how the organisation came about and what some of the services that you provide are?
Yes, look, we started over 11 years ago, and really because there's a big focus with organisations providing focus on things like postnatal depression particularly, but there was no focus on the things that might come before that. So that the opportunity for COPE was really to focus on the range of challenges that might occur in the journey to parenthood, like dealing with sleep deprivation, dealing with changes to relationships, dealing with thoughts of anger or rage, these things that are not spoken about, but may, by identifying them early and getting good information, can prevent conditions like postnatal depression or anxiety. So it's not just focusing on the illness, but rather the other challenges that might come before. So it's very much a focus on education, prevention, early intervention, as well as covering then those conditions that do occur like anxiety and depression, which are the most common, but also the more severe conditions like postpartum psychosis, managing other severe illnesses in the perinatal period, which treatments are safe and effective to use. So really we're covering not only prevention, early intervention, but also the severe end of the spectrum, which is unique to COPE's work.
Want some extra tips to help you navigate parenthood? Join a Parents You've Got This masterclass. Visit www.parentsyouvegotthis.com.au and sign up for a masterclass today.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about the specific programs that COPE offers?
Yeah, so look, we have guideline development underpins everything. So we need to make sure we're providing excellent, high quality, evidence-based information through our website or our e-guide. So we have the Ready to Cope guide for expectant and new parents, and this is a free guide that parents can access, and it provides you with weekly information and updates about all the things that parents said, nobody told me about this. Why didn't anyone tell me? So that's what Ready to Cope is about. It covers all those range of challenges on a week-by-week basis, as well as covering the mental health problems and self-checklists and things like that you can self-identify if you might be struggling. We also, as part of our work, our major signature project is screening in all maternity hospitals and maternal and child health settings in the public system in most states and territories. And like screening for cancer or other health conditions, this is absolutely critical given that we know how common these conditions are and the immediate and long-term benefits of early identification, not only for the mother, but her baby and the family.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about what some of those benefits are to finding out, some of those conditions early on?
Yeah, so it's all about preventing the negative things that can occur. So, knowledge is power when it comes to understanding what's going on in this space that, as we spoke at the beginning, no one knows about until you're landed in it. It also, just getting that information weekly or having access to that makes people feel like they're not so alone. We know there's still not only high expectations, but often stigma and shame if people are not seen to be coping. So it really reinforces to people that they're not alone in their journey and their struggles, and that there's information and support available. And by doing that, we're really optimising the health of the mother and family to provide the best nurturing environment for the future of their children.
What do you see as being the biggest challenge that's facing new parents?
Look, I think today it's things like the impacts of social media, how that impacts on expectations. We do see there are benefits, I suppose, that people do talk more openly about the challenges that they never used to speak about before. But there's still a long way to go in people feeling accepted and feeling like they're doing okay, whatever that is, and to be able to speak up and ask for support. So they're really important things. The importance for us, I suppose, is making sure that every state and territory is implementing screening So we are identifying those conditions early, and that is a really big focus of our work, as well as in following them up and making sure people are accessing excellent evidence-based treatments that are provided by other great services in the perinatal space.
So you talked there a little bit about screening in hospitals. Can you tell us a little bit more about this program and why you think it works so successfully?
We know it works because we're picking up people early. We're not only screening to identify whether someone might be experiencing depression or anxiety right now at the time of screening, but we're also identifying their risk factors or their risk profile. So someone may or may not be experiencing a condition at the time of screening, but they might be at greater risk. So things like having a history of mental health problems, having a poor relationship, having a history of trauma or abuse, we know these things increase your likelihood of developing a mental health problem. So providing screening and information back to the patient as well as the clinician really optimises the opportunity for education and to be able to put protective mechanisms in place and to be aware to identify symptoms early. It's no point waiting until things have gone really pear-shaped before seeking help. Empowering people with that knowledge and information about themselves through the screening process really helps us make sure people are equipped with the tools and resources to get help early, but also prevent these conditions from occurring or getting worse if they're occurring already.
So if they fill out the survey, what happens next?
So when completing this is all digitised now, and Australia is absolutely, we're a world leader in digitising digital screening. So women do their screen on their own phone at the moment, so that gives a lot more privacy, and we see that rates of disclosure have significantly increased by people having that personal space to do it on their own device, as opposed to filling it out on a piece of paper and feel like you're doing a test.
Yeah, or getting a label.
Yes, or answering to the health professional. So first of all, we see it's increasing rates of disclosure. We also see that women and fathers who are doing screening get their own personal report back at the end. So it's not like you've just divulged all this information about you and then get nothing back. It's really important that we provide people with information and referral pathways if any risk factors are identified or if they're likely to be experiencing symptoms. So it's really about empowering the individual, and then for the health professional we provide them with clinical guidance. What is the risk for this patient? How to best provide evidence-based care with this person in front of you right now, and make sure they get access to quality interventions as early as possible if needed.
And so what healthcare professional is that? Is that going to the doctors where you are in the hospital, or to a maternal and child health nurse, or their own doctor?
So generally it's occurring on all public maternity hospitals in most states and territories. So most people are screening is occurring with their midwife. There are a number of private obstetricians who also do screening, and general practitioners, particularly those who are providing shared care. So, we've done over 250,000 screens in Australia now. Even with a large national initiative that I oversaw at Beyond Blue years and years ago, we only got to 40,000 screens over 5 years. Wow. And we're doing hundreds of thousands of screens every year now, which is great, because we're preventing those people needing to get really become very unwell potentially and need more intensive interventions.
It's amazing what you're actually giving to these people is absolutely fabulous, and hats off to you for everything that you're doing and that you continue to achieve. What you're also doing is helping to break down the stigma around it too, and getting people talking about it and acknowledging it, and regardless of whether or not or how their report comes back, I think for all of us to recognise that at this pivotal point of change in our lives, there is a chance that it is going to create this. The awareness of that for our friends, for our family members, it's helping to just do good for the whole community. So it's really amazing. In terms of your tips for parents, so you have done 250,000 screenings, you are living this and breathing this with parents. Mm-hmm. What would your top 3 pieces of advice be for parents?
Look, number one I'd say is be informed, but make sure you're getting information from evidence-based sources. There's a lot of information out there that we can pick up, and everyone's an expert on everything, but making sure you're informed with really quality information is my number one go-to point. Number 2 is be mindful and aware of your expectations. Are they realistic? Are you really putting the bar really high for yourself? Are you setting yourself up with high pressures that you just don't need to put that pressure on yourself? This is already a challenging time. Go easy on yourself and give yourself a break. Number 3 is develop connections, build your village of support. This is really important. It can be an incredibly isolating time. I myself wasn't prepared for the isolation years and years ago when having kids. So organisations like Mama Tribe or other community groups, be proactive. We know a lot of parents don't turn up or often initiate things because of the stigma or the fear and the logistics quite often. So you have to really make that effort. But honestly, those social connections can make the experience so different. So I'd really encourage that as a protective factor and also even preventative against developing mental health problems.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole. That was fantastic. Please do look up the COPE website if you're having trouble coping. Also, Panda and Gidget, also great organisations in this space. Everyone's here to guide and support you, and you never ever, feel bad about reaching out. It could be the bravest thing that you ever do, and it really can change your and your child's life.
A huge thanks to Mistela for sponsoring this episode. Mistela empowers parents throughout their parenting journey with education and honest conversations from pregnancy and beyond. Mistela has plenty of parenting articles and resources on their website. Visit mistela.com.au.
You've been listening to the Expert Guide to Parenthood podcast, and never forget, parents, you've got this.
Join a Parents You've Got This masterclass today to be prepared, excited and educated for pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood. Visit www.parentsyou'vegotthis.com.au and sign up for a masterclass today.
The information provided in this podcast is general in nature and is intended to support, not replace, a discussion with your doctor or healthcare professional. Parents You've Got This take no responsibility for any medical decisions made by individuals based on the information provided in this podcast.